After watching footage, this fight is extremely 50-50. And that's without a doubt. I can see both guys actually winning, and I'll explain what that's about, because his pros are like his cons. I would know because I did scout. It's like lifting in a weight room, because I think I might go Charles, but I might just max it out. Yeah, baby, yeah. Let's go, man. Guys, for real, at the end of this video, guys, I'm going to tell you exactly how this fight's going to go. Like, I'm going to predict this, break this down to a T. And you guys know, anytime you see a PowerPoint, you know I'm going to get the main event right. Like, let's be honest, main event Kenny. Now, I know I once had the title. I still have the title of the best predictor, but I'm not 100% because I got the Moreno pick wrong. All right. But I found out the only other predictor who was perfect was Bedtime. He also got the main event wrong. And I actually know Bedtime's going max. Me and Bedtime might actually do a video later this week. So get ready for that little debate if there's a debate. But let me tell you guys something. At the end of this video, I'm actually going to make my prediction. As in, like, when I click record, I was like, you know, this fight's really close. But I watched footage. I am leaning somewhere. But after I read this out loud, if I have a change of opinion, I'm just going to tell you what I think by the end of the video after going through all these pros and cons and saying it out loud. Because sometimes I have to just say things out loud. And if I have an opinion, I can't let my opinion just decipher. Because after watching footage, guys, I watched every amount of footage. And this fight, man, like, it's so interesting how I feel like the pros and cons of some of these guys complement each other so well. And it could be exploited by both guys. But I think I have an idea. But without further ado, let's get into this breakdown. Starting off with the striking of both fighters. We're going to start off the striking with Max Holloway. Amazing speed and amazing blitz. I also said newfound power at 155 and sharp counters. Let's start with his amazing speed and blitz. Max Holloway's best weapon is not his counter punches. And I know this because I just spent so much time watching this guy just fight. You know, he's really good with, like, I don't want to say offbeat, but like his timing is very like out of the blue, and it's usually speed that carries him in a lot of his fights. So he's like out of the blue, and then he splits it in with a really quick combo. Usually a 1-2, and then he's out. And then he waits for you to react, and then he does it again. He's like, you can't really seesaw, fight, and beat Max Holloway. When I say seesaw, it's pretty much when someone throws a combo, the other person blocks it, then they reset, then the other person throws a combo. If you try to seesaw Max Holloway, you're not going to do it. Matter of fact, Max Holloway's striking, objectively, in my opinion, may be even better than Ilia Topuri's in some aspects. And I'm saying that because I feel like Ilia Topuria does a lot of heavy shots and takes some risk, and I feel like Max, he moves pretty well, and his entries are always really good. And like, he has this newfound power at 155 that makes it like, because at 145 he would do that and he'll be like, all right, well, he's not knocking anyone out. The first time he fought Dustin Poirier, he went up to 155 and didn't gain the weight appropriately and was kind of fat. Like, it almost seemed like his punches had no effect on a Dustin Poirier. Now, I know recently he fought an older version of Dustin. I was rewatching that fight, but it was really just, it was the same Max, but like, he just carried more power. Like, any version of Dustin would have struggled with that version of Max. That's what I got from that fight. You know, I'm not saying Dustin was in his prime. Of course, Dustin's chin looked a little bit worse than it usually does, but Max's power is something you have to actually keep an eye on in this fight, specifically against Charles. Also did highlight his sharp counters. Now, his counters are weird because he's not like, he's a different type of counter like than a Conor McGregor. He doesn't counter the same as like Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria like sits in the pocket and counters. Like, when Ilia sees you about to throw, his counter is like he's going to throw while you're in the process of throwing, which is how he knocked out Charles. Like, if you actually watch the Charles fight at Ilia knocked him out because Charles tried to throw, and in the midst of him trying to throw, Ilia already threw a 2-punch combo because he knew he was faster. Max counters will like, he'll let you throw, and then right at the end of your flurry, he'll immediately counter. So they're two different types of counters. I feel like Ilia's counter results in more knockouts because when you get caught in the midst of throwing a punch is different than when after you miss and then you get caught with a punch. But I do think Max has sharp counters, but it's not his best weapon. People mistaken Max for like a crazy counter puncher. He has good counters, but his best weapons are actually when he's forward pressuring and engaging with speed and blitz. That's when he does his best. He does have counters, but like usually before he gets a sharp counter in, he's taking a lot of damage and a lot of shots by the person who is blitzing into him. So these are his pros, and I want to know he's really good. He's so good. Because before there was actually a time I was like, Max always striking's all right. It's all right. Dude, it's good. Dude, it's good. I was like, I couldn't believe how, like, just how smart he was because he knows when to enter. Like, it's like, I always say off timing, but I feel like it doesn't really apply because when people think of off timing, think of like Drake and Duplessis. No, his timing is just weird, but it always works. I've noticed that so much while watching footage. These are his cons, and they kind of say the same thing, but in different fonts. Okay, I said he jumps back when pressured or fainted at, and then the second thing I said sometimes he gets flustered when he's pressured. Let me explain this. The jumps back when he's pressured or fainted at. Max is very reactive, and for someone who takes a lot of damage, you would expect him not to be as like jumpy as he is. But if you are gonna like faint at Max, he's gonna just jump back completely out of range. Now, this is a negative thing in this fight, and I'm going to talk about why it's negative later, but he does do something where he jumps back and kind of like leaps out of range, and then he kind of gets back into it. But it's just a lot of energy, and then sometimes when he does that and the guy continues the pressure and continues the blitz, he gets flustered, and that's where a lot of the punches come. I actually watched the Korean Zombie fight just literally right before I clicked record. That was like one of the few last videos I watched for Max, because I think that's one of the most important fights to watch for a fight with Charles Oliveira, because Korean Zombie is kind of like defensively irresponsible pressure. And Max was getting tagged up a lot by the Korean Zombie. Like you guys gotta watch back that fight. And all the moments where he's getting tagged up came from when he was getting flustered by the pressure. And it's a common occurrence. If you look at the Dustin Poirier fight, the end of the round when Dustin actually hurt Max is because Dustin's like, fuck it, dude, I just gotta try to get something going. He comes forward with a combo and it kind of flusters Max. It gets him Max getting dropped. Ilia Topuria, when Max had the biggest problems, when Max gets flustered and Max is getting pressured with combo punches, which something Charles does, and we're gonna talk about that. That's when he gets the most uncomfortable. When Max is the most comfortable in the striking is when you're seesawing him. You're trying to go, okay, I'm going to strike and then you're going to strike right after. But the problem with this is that's not how Charles strikes, and I'm going to talk about Charles' pros and cons after this slide. But I just think that his cons are very important in this fight specifically, because these are cons that someone can exploit specifically in this fight. So he jumps back a lot when he's pressured and fainted out, which first of all drains a lot of energy because you're using a lot of energy in your movement, which I know people might be like, but Kenny, Max doesn't get tired. There's a different fight in front of him. This is not someone just going to strike for you with 25 minutes. Max had jump like that when he's only striking. This is going to be a little bit of a different fight, and I'm going to tell you guys why later, but I just think this con's very important and very significant in a fight like this. Now let's talk about Charles' pros. Aggressive and pressure heavy. Now, as you can see, what Max's cons were is that he would struggle with someone with this style. Also said slick elbows, heavy hooks, and solid straights down the pipe. Also said amazing clinch striking. So let's break this down. Charles is a very aggressive striker, so he's always going to come forward. And it's one of those things that people can be like, but Kenny, what if Charles doesn't come forward? I know Charles is going to fight the same, because Charles was stupid enough to fight the same against Ilia Topuria. No offense to Charles. You guys know I like Charles, but fighting Ilia like that, I was like, he's just really never gonna change. Like, bro, how I still today, I watched back that fight, and I swear, like, I watched it back, that one yesterday, my stomach like sank. For some reason, that knockout doesn't sit, it makes me feel uneasy. That's one of those knockouts, Chad, like I see, and I'm like, dude, I just feel weird today. Like, it makes my stomach feel weird. I just hated how AI that looked, how like flat he fell on his back. And I was questioning, why did he do that? Like, watching him back, I kept saying, why are you doing this? It was working, though. Like, he did land some slick elbows on Ilia, which goes to my point here. When he's aggressive, guys, he's actually very frustrating, and he actually lands a lot of shots. I was watching back his Dustin fight and his Justin fight. He actually had more success in the striking than most people would think in the first round. I feel like a lot of people just think in the first round with Dustin and Justin, he got dropped and hurt, and he had to recover. Before that, he was doing a lot of great things. And I feel like he does a lot of these things to set up his grappling, but I'm not talking about his grappling right now. I'm only talking about striking, but his amazing clinch strikes, like even if he gets close to you, he'll do something. He'll grab your head and he'll just start throwing uppercuts, like elbows, like knees up the middle. He's very overwhelming and overbearing. And somebody who doesn't like getting flustered by forward pressure and like aggressiveness, they're going to hate this style. So Max Holloway's cons are looking a little bit here, because I feel like it's just not a good habit if you're breaking under certain pressure and using a lot of energy when someone's pressuring you, knowing that Charles is going to do this for literally 25 minutes if he has to, hopefully not on the feet, because like I said, on the feet it's still Max's game. You're probably wondering why I still think it's Max's game given these pros and cons, because look at Charles' cons. Not defensively responsible despite his high guard. Dude, Charles is one of the most interesting human beings, because on paper he's fundamentally doing everything correct in the striking, minus him being overly aggressive, which is one of his cons. I said overly aggressive at times, but he's so prone to getting hit despite the high guard. Like, he has a high guard. His biggest problem with the high guard mostly is hooks. I've noticed this. He always has the hooks just bleed through the high guard, but he also has straights, like a lot of straights bleed through high guard. Max Holloway has a really mean straight down the pipe, like a really good one, and is really fast. And no offense Charles has been in there with someone faster because he's been in there with Ilia. But this is going to be a different type of speed. It's not going to carry as much power, but it's going to be fast, and it's going to be something. It's going to be volume heavy too. Like Charles might get a little bit flustered. There's moments where I know, because I watched Charles footage, he's going to get flustered. Dude, Charles can't stand for 25 minutes with Max. I'm telling you right now. Like, despite his pros kind of exposing some of Max's cons, the same could be said, because you're prone to getting hit going against someone with pretty good sharp counters. Like, so you can't just be coming in as aggressively. Like, it's gonna work for the first couple minutes, but one thing Max showed me specifically in the Korean Zombie fight is that he'll take some, like when you're pressuring him, he's gonna take some damage, but he's eventually gonna find your timing, and when he finds your timing, he can lay you out pretty bad. Of course, Korean Zombie's a little bit older, and Korean Zombie doesn't have a takedown threat, so it's a little bit different, but I'm telling you right now, I'll do a striking comparison. Holloway has a huge advantage here, like, because Charles is prone to the counters, and I will say after Charles pressure overwhelms him, like within the first 2-3 minutes, there's gonna start to be times where Max actually finds the shot, and Max does have newfound power. I'll say this right now: if they're standing for 25 minutes, I'm picking Max, and I'm doing one of these. Like, I'm doing one of these because it'd be a really easy pick for me. Max is so good at striking and finding his things, but I really want people to know it's actually a pretty big advantage. Like, for the first 2 rounds, if they were only striking, people actually might think the fight's really competitive and back and forth, but I knew if they had to strike for 25 minutes, I know that Max eventually would start to get to Charles and start to break Charles. Max is just the better striker objectively. He even has some good kicks I didn't even talk about. The reason I didn't mention kicks for his pros, because I have a feeling, I could be completely wrong here, I feel like he'll throw a lot less kicks in fear of it getting caught and him getting taken down. So he does like a body kick. He does like a spinning kick. I don't think we're going to see that spinning kick. I'll tell you guys right now, if Max throws that spinning kick, he's going to get his back taken. He's going to get submitted. I think if Max is intelligent, and this is me trying to back Max here, do not throw that spinning back kick that you do. Like I know it lands on Gaethje and it lands sometimes. He even threw it his last fight. It was landing at times, but it gives you're giving your back to someone who's gonna like literally jump on that the second you do it. So just don't do it, Max. Don't do it, Max. Please, no, Max. Nor. I gotta channel my inner Australian. Nor. Is that Australian? I don't know. But don't do that spinning kick or you're gonna get taken down. But yeah, outside of that, I think the striking advantage should be clearly Max, unless Max starts doing weird stuff that he should not be doing that he normally does sometimes. But let's talk about the grappling, because this is the big thing. First, we're gonna start with Max Holloway. Grappling pro, solid takedown defense against no one notable. Brother, who you stuffing? Just no one notable. Like, I will say he does a good job, like, from looking at the fundamental standpoint of it. I saw when Dustin Poirier was getting beat up and then he shot a panic takedown, easy wizard by Max. Max seems green. Like, Max seems like aware of these things. Like, he doesn't seem dumb, like, and dumbfounded when it comes to these things. But like, it's just not really against anyone noticeable. Like, Brian Ortega doesn't really have an offensive wrestling skill set. Volk does. But Volk took him down. Like, it goes to this is my cons. Like, grapple no one at Charles level. So it's pretty much, pros are like, yeah, he solid takedown defense, but you grapple nobody. Taporia took him down. Volk took him down. People take down Max all the time, but he just gets back up. Like, it's not that Max has crazy takedown defense. It's that when you take him down, he just gets back up against like Volk and Ilya and some of these other guys. But they're not Charles. They're not Charles. And I know some delusional people are going to be like, but didn't Ilya school Charles on the ground? That's not what happened. And I'm going to talk about what happened later when I'm talking about Charles' cons. But yeah, it's just that he hasn't won against any grapplers. So I think this is the big story here. This is why I said the fight's a lot more closer than I think. Like, the striking, they could be back and forth, but I do think over the course of 25 minutes, Max could school him. But the grappling is different, man, because I just don't see Max grappling someone at the caliber of Charles Oliveira. Now let's go to Charles pros, because he has a couple of them here, man. Strong and impressive in clinch grappling. We rarely see Charles score single or double wide in the open. Like, we don't really see that much. After watching footage, I like what he does here. He has strong, impressive clinch grappling. So he'll shoot a double on you in the open. He doesn't mind that. But he's just trying to drive you into the cage. Pause. Like, he's gonna grab a hold of you in the open, but not to like score in the open, but to drive you against the fence. And like and if he's good at like if he drives you full force in the flinch and like the fence and you almost bounce off of it, he's good at like almost going behind you and trying to take the back off that alone. So I said, great, I take him back. And I said, scrambling ability and submission threat, I just peak. Like you make a mistake against Charles, even if it's a slip. Axe Armin. Armin almost got guillotined. Armin just like if that was Max in that situation, I'm sorry, you're tapping. Anyone except for Armin's tapping. Armin had to come out of his pants like to literally not get tapped. So you can't really make weird mistakes. Like if Max has slipped around sometimes. If he slips against Charles gonna drop on that. I remember when Dustin had Max hurt in the first round, Dustin jumped the guillotine because Max like dropped and like landed on his hands and knees, and then like Dustin's like, oh, that's an easy guillotine. He does that against Charles, he's getting submitted. So it's one of those things. His scrambling's great and his submission threat's great, so you can't really make too much mistakes. And like he's just trying to get you in the clinch, and once he gets you to the clinch, he's not one of those people like if you just saw Moreno last week, guys, fucking holding knee to the leg, man, knee to fuck. I can't believe it. Hey, he ruined my perfect main event streak. Anyways, yeah, he's not one of those. Like, he actually tried to muscle you down. And against Gamrot, I was very surprised by how strong he was in the clinch. Because when he got Gamrot in the clinch, he kind of just muscled him to the ground, forced the scramble, and won the scramble. Like, I was very that fight against Gamrot's only like very scary because I know Gamrot's way better at defensive wrestling than someone like Max Holloway. And just seeing what Charles is able to do to him, mama, like sheep eyes, brother. That scared the crap out of me. I'm like, dude, Max, you better pray to your father. I can't hear you. Pray harder. But those are his pros, man. Like, I want people to know, like, his grappling is really elite. And even if he gets you on the ground, too, I didn't even mention this, the ground and pound of Charles Oliveira. Ground and pound that, like, takes energy away. Like, it's one of those things that are going to, like, ruin you going into the next round because you're going to get splattered. He has ground and pound. He has submission threat. He has it all. He's not no slouch on the ground. He gets you in full guard. He's going to try to, like, break your face up, So I want people to understand Charles is really no joke in the grappling, and this is very scary if Max does get put under this guy. What are his cons? He pulls opponents into advantageous positions. That's what he actually did against Ilya. That's what he did a lot of times against Gamrot too. When you're watching Charles film, you start to realize it. Sometimes he doesn't like being on the feet so much that he almost tries to grab a hold of people and like pull them into them, like pull them on the ground. And it's a con because you don't want to do that. Like against Ilya, he pulled Ilya to the ground to like try to do something. Ilya thought he was gonna get a crucifix. First of all, that whole Ilya out-grapple Charles thing is so faulty, guys. It's actually so faulty. And every time I watch it, I'm like, oh my god, why did I think? Because I was one of those people like, dude, Ilya even took him down. Ilya went to fucking crucifix and was schooling him. Guys, Ilya didn't take anyone down. Charles did what he always does, which is pull someone in advantageous position to try to force a scramble. And then yes, Ilya did move into crucifix, but Charles kind of let him move into crucifix so he could try to go for an underhook and then like go from grab a leg and stuff. And that's what he did. Like he did that just to force a scramble. But then once Ilya realized that, he's like, fuck this, I'm getting up, which is why Ilya got up. But it's not what you think. I'm telling you, watch back that whole sequence. You're gonna be like, oh, that was all Charles just trying to get him on the ground. Ilya knew that. That's why Ilya got up. Most casual watchers didn't know that, and I didn't know it the first time. But watching back, I was like, wow. But it's a con. But like against Gamrot, I even remember when he had Gamrot, he like lifted him up and like put him on the ground, but almost like it was a weird thing where like he somehow gave up a bad position, but he like out scrambled Gamrot. Against Dustin Poirier, he did it too. He had Dustin against the fence, and I remember he pulled Dustin down, and Dustin Dustin ended up in a dominant position, but then he out scrambled Dustin, and then he ended up you guys just gotta watch some Charles footage to understand what I'm talking about. He will literally pull you into advantageous position to try to win a scramble, and it works sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. I'm saying it's a con just because it's not a good thing to do. Like most people, they don't teach you that in classes. You're not saying, oh yeah, pull this guy on top of you, but he's so confident in his grappling that he's gonna be okay with doing that, and I think he'll love to do that against a Max Holloway, who he probably doesn't see as the same level as him in the grappling. Now, how does this go? I say the grappling comparison is Oliveira has a massive advantage. Just like how Max has a massive advantage in the striking, I think Oliveira has a massive advantage in the grappling. I said Oliveira will take him down. It's going to be a huge problem. I know he's going to take him down. It's a matter of when and how. I said Max will stuff the couple, but he's struggling to clinch. So Max will stuff it in the open, but he's struggling to clinch. So I'm saying that because in the open, I don't see Charles like taking him down and slamming him. I think if he does, like even Max would probably get up in the open, but like he's going to they're going to end up on the fence no matter what, whether it's Max getting up and like driving himself to the fence to try to fight him off his back, but they're going to be on the fence. And I feel like the fence and the clinch is going to be a big part of this fight, guys. I'm telling you. But as far as the grappling advantage, of course, Oliveira has a massive massive advantage. As far as things to note, these are everything I want you guys to know, which I feel like are going to be very important in deciding the winner. Max jumping backwards benefits Charles. So that habit in the striking I was talking about earlier, Max is jumping backwards. What Charles wants to do in his whole game plan against anyone is to back you up with strikes, right? I'm talking about high guard, hook, jab, 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 have you against the fence, and then when you're against the fence, and once he sees your back hit the fence, which happens to Max a lot of times, look at the footage, your back hits the fence, he'll grab a hold of you in the clinch. And that's where the battle starts. That's what I'm talking about. That's where the battle's going to start. I did say Max could school him for 25 minutes in the striking, but his habit of jumping back in the striking when you feint at him or you pressure him is not good, because you're going to end up with your back on the fence, which favors Charles. I said the clinch is where the fight will be won. So on the fence, not the clinch. Clinch in the open is always going to be won by Charles, in my opinion. When they're clinching in the open, Charles' knees and elbows are just a little bit too much, I feel like. But when they're clinching on the fence, it's going to come down to Max's urgency. If Max has the urgency to get off the fence, he'll be good. If Max is too hyper focused on, I gotta worry about this choke, I gotta defend this choke, and he plays a game with Charles where it's almost like a stall game where Charles has him against the fence and Max is too scared to move because Max feels like I might give up something bad, he's gonna lose. He's gonna give up a lot of control time. And Max isn't the type, like I said, to just hold you there. He'll end up like lifting you. If you stay there long enough, he'll lift you, or he'll try to pull you down in an advantageous position but try to win a scramble. But Charles is gonna be active in the clinch, so Max has to, I don't want to say risk stuff, but he has to. Like, he can't try to stay against the fence and just chill and be like, you know what, maybe Herding's going to separate us, or like, I don't want to give up anything vital, so I'm not going to take a huge risk. I'm just going to let him control me here. If he does that, I'm telling you, it's problems. And for some reason, I can see Max losing this fight on the fence in the clinch. I really think the clinch is going to come down to it. But if Max just gets off the fence, you guys know how Adesanya kind of frames off, circles, and get back to the center. If Max could do that, I think he'll win. So that's where it comes down to, guys. The fight will be won in the clinch against the fence. It's going to come down to who wants it more. But the reason I'm more worried about Max is because Max likes to jump forward. Max circles a lot, and Oliveira pressures a lot. When you circle a lot and you jump back a lot, and you're not really confident as Charles is taking the center of the ring, that means you're already putting your back next to the fence, which opens up opportunities for Charles to shoot. This is all why I'm leaning direction. Now, you're seeing my prediction. Usually this page is filled with my prediction. But when I was making this slideshow, I was like, when I'm talking, I'm going to have to come to an understanding, and I want to make this decision live. Like, I want to make it on the fly. Now, with everything I just said, I really do believe the striking advantage for Max is significant. I feel like Max is going to be a lot faster than Charles Oliveira. He's going to speed mug him a lot of the time. He's going to be landing these good shots. He'll be in and out, and Charles will have moments when he's pressuring him in the striking, with the elbows, with the hooks in close, flying knees and all that. But I do see Charles getting hurt in this fight. I see Charles getting caught with something while he's doing this, and he's getting dropped. But I do see Max as someone who's almost gonna let Charles like relax and chill, which is the mistake Justin made and Dustin and some of these other guys made, where they have him hurt but they're scared of the ground. I think Max is going to be the same. One thing I noticed about people who beat Charles, they don't really fear that ground element. They're going to try to hurt you and they're going to jump on you, or they're like just one punch knockout power like Ilya Taporia. Max Holloway, man, I do think he's going to hurt him. I don't know if he's going to drop him, but he's going to hurt Charles 110%. It's going to come down to how he unloads on Charles. And I think if he does hurt Charles, he has to jump on the finish as fast as possible. Like, if you have him wobbling against the fence, you got to go for that, but it's like, is Max going to stay in the center, and he's not? Is he going to give Charles too much respect? I really feel like, oh, dude, this is tough. This is tough. This is why I should make my prediction before I make the video. All right. Honestly, right now, I think I want to pick Max Holloway. I feel like right now, the reason I'm leaning Max is because although everything I said, I'm like, what if Max just has really good takedown defense? But then again, when you look at the pros and cons, and I look at what I written down, even though the striking is a big advantage to Max, I don't know if Max's striking advantage is that much. It is huge, but is it that significant? I feel like the grappling advantage might be a little bit more significant when I think about it. So my official pick as the best predictor of 2026, guys, on main events, I am going to have to say Charles Oliveira beats Max Holloway. How does he do it? I got Charles Oliveira by submission or points. I think it's going to either be a submission or point. I just think the fight's going to be won in the clinch. I don't know, my phone's going off. I feel like the fight's going to be wanting the clinch. I think the clinch is going to come down to who wants it more, and I just feel like Charles is going to be a little bit more urgent in the clinch, as well as the fact that when it is striking, even though Max is the better striker, I could see Max getting tagged up by Charles as well, with Charles elbows and Charles clinch strikes. So I'm officially going Charles Oliveira to beat Max Holloway. But let me know where you guys are going. You know, maybe I switch. I don't know if I'm going to switch my pick. This is a pretty close fight. I remember I was really confident in Max right before when I first heard the fight, and then I was really confident in Charles, and then I watched footage. I was like, this is really close, but I ended up going Charles, guys. Let me know what you think down below. That's it for me. God bless. 2, 3, 4.